know they're watching me right now, and they're mad at me.
I was, needless to say, devastated and really shaken to my core when I first heard this news. And I spoke to all the girls personally, and I encouraged all of them, any of them who had actually been harmed, to please come forward.
So freaking mean to me. I was in shock. Do you take responsibility for the situation that you're in right now?
100%.
100%?
100%.
I couldn't believe it because I loved her so much. I admired her and looked up to her. And she pretty much reprimanded me.
For years, Oprah Winfrey has been treated as untouchable, a media titan so powerful that even whispers of controversy seem to bounce right off her without consequence. But lately something feels different, because the silence that once protected her is cracking, and the people who used to stay quiet are no longer doing so. And when Terrence Howard finally broke his silence, it didn't feel random or impulsive, it felt overdue, like someone who had been sitting on something heavy for far too long, and finally decided he wasn't going to carry it alone anymore. And before we get into everything he's allegedly revealing, and why so many people believe Oprah may now be in serious trouble, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because stories like this don't stay quiet for long, and once the dominoes start falling, they tend to fall fast.
Oprah Winfrey has had a lot of controversy around her African school for girls, with huge conspiracy theories starting that these girls were going missing from Oprah's school. All of these theories started shortly after Oprah opened her school in 2007, and the matriarch of that school was charged with essay of 7 different girls. Oprah ended up offering a public apology to the parents and the children and citing her own essay incidents in this apology. But the matriarch would then be found not guilty of these crimes. But then it shocked the nation because shortly after this, Oprah's school was hit with another essay allegation. 7 students were suspended for harassing and fondling classmates. And a lot of people thought that this stemmed from the very first incident, because why would these children be acting like this? And the rumors started swirling after this point because they just didn't understand how these things could happen so close to one another. And then boom, there was another investigation at Oprah's school after the body of a newborn was found in a girl's book bag.
To be able to make out with Oprah, to have love scenes with her and those tiggo bitties. I mean, she's such a lovely, voluptuous woman. So being able to, she's very, very, very beautiful, and that was wonderful. That was wonderful.
And Terrence Howard's name being attached to this conversation matters because, unlike internet commentators or distant critics, Terrence wasn't on the outside looking in. He was inside the machine, working alongside Oprah, benefiting from her proximity, and seeing firsthand how power operates behind closed doors. And when someone like that starts hinting that the image we've been sold doesn't match the reality, people pay attention, especially when his words start lining up with a long list of artists who have all independently claimed similar experiences. And that's where this story stops being about one man's frustration and starts feeling like a pattern, because Oprah's public persona has always been rooted in empathy, healing, and advocacy, particularly for Black artists and Black women. Yet time and time again, people who crossed her path walked away feeling diminished, reprimanded, or quietly sidelined. And one of the most emotional accounts came from Toni Braxton, who openly admitted that her appearance on Oprah's show left her devastated, describing how Oprah publicly interrogated her finances, mocked her spending habits, and made her feel small in front of a predominantly white audience.
So I would have loved to have been rolling in the sheets with Terrence. I'd like to give that a try one afternoon.
Now, despite all the steamy tension and their alleged affair,
where's my raise? I haven't seen a raise in my income since Proud Mary. And almost had to walk away from Color Purple. Yes, ma'am. Who said what? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Because you know what? If I don't take a stand, how am I making it easy for Fantasia and Danielle and Hallie and Felicia?
And what shook people wasn't just Tony's pain, but the fact that Oprah framed the humiliation as accountability, something that would become a recurring theme with other guests who later spoke out, because Dave Chappelle would experience something eerily similar when he appeared on Oprah after walking away from a massive Comedy Central deal. Instead of being met with understanding, Dave was repeatedly pushed toward a narrative of instability, paranoia, and mental fragility. Despite clearly articulating his concerns about exploitation and control, and many viewers felt Oprah wasn't listening to him at all, but rather steering the conversation toward discrediting him in a way that made the industry more comfortable.
It's my grandmother's home. I came out like 12 o'clock in the afternoon, May 24th. She was bent over, actually planting flowers in the garden, and I walked over here to sit in the actual vehicle that my friend was waiting for me in, and the car pulled up. On the side of us, a guy got out the passenger seat of that car, came around behind it, and shot through the actual car.
What does it feel like to be shot? Is it a physical feeling?
Yeah, it doesn't hurt as much as people imagine it hurts because of your adrenaline and how the shock of what's actually going on, it hurts after.
Did you feel the first one or the ninth one?
I don't even know. I didn't know my legs were broke.
Really?
When I tried to get out the car at the hospital, both of my legs were broke. Like I broke in 3 places on this side and then...
Where were you shot?
In my hands, my legs several times, like 5 times in my hands, and then in my legs, and then in my face. Yeah, so when going through that experience, when you get hurt that bad, either your fear consumes you or you become a bit insensitive. So just after...
Which one was it for you?
There was a point that I was afraid.
Afraid?
Yeah, following that, actually being shot, it was like I was afraid because everybody involved in the situation was still physically available to do the part two.
Yes.
Yeah, to just do it again. And then it was like, I got tired of, in the recovery process, I got tired of being afraid. And then the only way that I could, like, to cover those emotions were to be a little more aggressive.
And insensitive.
Yeah, and to be angry about the situation opposed to dealing with how I was actually feeling at that point. And
how were you actually feeling?
The physical part hurt, and then there was confusion because
you hurt afterwards. You don't hurt for the immediate.
Yeah, after you know you're gonna be fine, it really starts hurting. You know what I mean? Like the doctor telling you you're good, then it's just really bones aching. You feel like you got a headache in your hip, your body, and then it's like, I know I'm gonna be fine, but it hurts so bad.
Did you ever find out who did it?
Yeah, I knew who did it shortly after. Yeah.
And they are now where?
Oh, the guy who actually shot was dead. And the guy who paid him got life in jail.
Got life in jail. Favorite meal for him?
When he was growing up, its favorite food was pork and beans and Franks.
Really? You still like them?
Yeah, it was the fastest.
Ignoring what he was saying, and then there was Ludacris, who showed up expecting to promote his film Crash, only to later realize that Oprah used the platform to subtly undermine his music, framing him as someone whose art she morally disagreed with, while conveniently editing out his rebuttals during the final broadcast, making it appear as though he silently accepted her judgment. And when you zoom out, it becomes harder to ignore how often these situations followed the same structure. Oprah positions herself as the authority. The artist is framed as flawed or irresponsible, and any resistance is either edited out, minimized, or quietly punished afterward. And this is where 50 Cent enters the picture, because unlike others who retreated after their experiences, 50 chose confrontation, openly accusing Oprah of catering to white audiences, while positioning herself as a gatekeeper of Black success. And when she initially refused to have him on her show, he took it as confirmation that she was actively opposed to voices that didn't fit her curated narrative. And even after the interview eventually happened, the tension never disappeared. And over time, 50 would repeatedly hint that Oprah had far more influence over who thrives and who struggles in the industry.
That she had made about, I was there for Crash, for the movie.
Yeah.
And basically she said something about not agreeing with my music, but she thought I did great in the movie. And of course I was up there with the whole cast of Crash. And so I didn't necessarily feel like that needed to be said. You didn't agree with my music. And even if you don't agree with certain songs I made, say you don't agree with certain songs, don't say you just don't agree with all of my music.
Right.
she was able to say what she said, and then I had my rebuttal. And when I saw the final show, her comments were in there.
It was in there, but yours wasn't in there.
And mine weren't in there, so it just looked like I kind of took it.
Wow.
Like, it was just quiet. And
Are
didn't
you
say
a
nothing,
yes
but I
man?
did.
Then people were willing to admit, which brings us back to Terrence Howard, because his proximity to Oprah during the filming and press run of The Butler placed him closer to her than most of her critics ever were. And during that time, their relationship was publicly playful, even flirtatious, with both of them leaning into the chemistry to promote the film. But behind the scenes, according to sources, things were far less lighthearted, especially as conversations around pay equity, control, and creative power began heating up, particularly when Taraji P. Henson spoke out about being underpaid for The Color Purple and nearly walking away from the project altogether. And instead of Oprah publicly supporting Taraji's stance, reports suggest she was deeply displeased, allegedly viewing the public discussion as a threat to the project's image. And this is where Terrence reportedly drew a line, because Taraji wasn't just a co-worker, she was someone he respected deeply, and watching her get quietly sidelined for speaking up allegedly didn't sit right with him at all. And while Terrence didn't go on social media blasting Oprah the way others had, insiders claim their disagreement was intense, emotional, and final. And what makes Terrence's alleged claims hit harder now is the timing, because they're resurfacing alongside renewed scrutiny of Oprah's leadership at her South African girls' school.
Increasingly paranoid. Would you say you were paranoid?
Sure. First of all, what is a black man without his paranoia intact? You might win $100 in a poker game and be on the subway. You're gonna look over your shoulder. They just said in everything I had $50 million. That's like making me a marked man.
So did you go to a psychiatric hospital?
In South Africa?
Yeah.
Who? I'm insane. They were trying to get me to take psychotic medication.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not taking this medicine, man, because I know these people be trying to control you or maybe discredit you. I was afraid, like, you know.
But you were stressed out. That's why.
There's no question. But it's very stressful for someone to constantly walk behind you and say, you're insane.
A project she once described as her greatest legacy, yet one that has been plagued by disturbing incidents since its opening, including allegations against staff members, internal misconduct between students, and even the horrifying discovery of a newborn's body on school grounds, events that fueled years of speculation, conspiracy theories, and unanswered questions. And while Oprah publicly apologized and took responsibility at the time, critics argue that accountability never fully materialized, and that the full truth of what happened there was never truly explored, especially when allegations of abuse were followed by acquittals that only deepened public confusion. And as these stories resurface, Terrence Howard's alleged comments about Oprah's role in sabotaging Black artists' careers take on a much heavier weight, because suddenly the idea of a powerful figure shaping narratives, suppressing dissent, and controlling outcomes doesn't sound far-fetched at all. It sounds consistent. And this is why many people believe Oprah may be facing a turning point, because unlike past controversies that were brushed aside, this moment feels different. The industry is changing, social media has weakened traditional gatekeepers.
She was so freaking mean to me. I was in shock. Do you take responsibility for the situation that you're in right now?
100%.
100%?
100%.
I couldn't believe it because I loved her so much. I admired her and looked up to her. And she pretty much reprimanded me. I read that you were upset about stories that your overspending caused this. She says to me, I hear you have Gucci flatware. I'm Oprah Winfrey and I don't have Gucci flatware. First of all, I didn't know Gucci made silverware. You ain't got Gucci flatware because you didn't want to buy it. It's not because you couldn't afford it. What do you mean? And immediately, she made me feel this big. This big.
And artists are no longer willing to accept quiet punishment as the cost of speaking up. And when you have voices like Monique, who has long accused Oprah, Tyler Perry, and Lee Daniels of blackballing her for refusing unpaid labor, being openly supported by 50 Cent, it signals a shift in who holds leverage now. Because 50 didn't just support Monique rhetorically, he offered her work, visibility, and validation, proving that the old system of silent exile doesn't work the way it used to. And Terrence Howard stepping into this conversation, even indirectly, adds credibility to claims that have been dismissed for years as bitterness or jealousy. And that's why so many people are saying this was inevitable, because power structures don't collapse overnight, they erode slowly through patterns, through repeated stories, through people comparing notes and realizing they weren't alone. And Oprah's greatest strength, her carefully maintained image, may now be her greatest vulnerability. Because once the narrative shifts, once people stop seeing her as the unquestioned authority and start viewing her as a participant in the same industry politics she once criticized, the protection disappears. And whether or not Oprah ever faces formal consequences, the cultural shift alone is significant, because for the first time, people aren't asking why these artists are speaking up, they're asking why it took so long. And as more voices step forward, as more old interviews get re-examined, and as more behind-the-scenes stories surface, one thing becomes clear. This isn't about one accusation or one feud. It's about a pattern of power, silence, and control that is finally being challenged. And now the question isn't whether Oprah can weather another controversy, it's whether the era of unquestioned influence she once enjoyed is already over. But I want to know what you think. Do you believe Terrence Howard speaking up changes how people see Oprah? And do you think this really is the beginning of the end for her unchecked power? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and click here to watch the next very messy video.